Welcome back, everybody, to the Martin's World podcast. Everyone, it's been quite some time since I released an interview, but I'm delighted to be able to bring to you this interview featuring Conor Macleod. Conor Macleod was a past guest on the podcast before, and he is the creator of Cannaman TV Productions, or better again, known as Cannaman TV Comics. Cannaman TV Productions are Scotland's most innovative and contemporary production company, combining animation, illustration, literary work, and podcasting to form the most creative production enterprise to emerge in Scotland and the UK in recent years. And more importantly, the reason why I had Conor on was to talk about what he released recently, which is the Cannaman movie. So all along, the Cannaman TV was just comic strips, couch skits, as described. But most recently, he released a feature-length movie. I believe it's just over 55 minutes long. And well worth checking out, guys. So if you want to check this out, get over to cannamantv.co.uk and you'll be able to find the movie along with all of the other animation series and also the literary work produced there by Conor Macleod. So guys, sit back, relax, spark up and enjoy this conversation with Conor Macleod. Conor, thanks very much anyway for taking time out of your evening to come and have a chat with me here. I'm absolutely delighted to be breaking the ice in terms of interviews, because this is my first interview in probably about a year or so now.
Right.
So it's great to have yourself back on to help break that ice. So thanks very much for being that person.
Brilliant, man. That's brilliant. Great to hear that. I'm fucking doing that, man. Brilliant.
Yeah, and no better reason to have you back on as well. Like, is your Cannaman movie? It just you recently launched it there online. After when was that? Was about 2 months ago now when you had that premiere. 3 months ago,
That's
maybe.
right. Yeah, the 12th of October. Aye.
October 2 months ago, so nearly, yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. So that was a great night. So we'll get to chat all about that. But I got to watch the movie myself with a couple of others there last night, and I have to say, like, it was really great. It was much like what I really liked about it. It was because I know I was disappointed with the YouTube the what you call it, the shorts, the couch
Yeah.
skits,
Mhm.
because they don't go on long enough. But like 55 minutes of like what was just a one long continuous couch skit, I suppose. Like to me, that was epic. I really enjoyed that aspect of it anyway. But the movie itself, like, it was great beginning to end. Like, in fairness, so well done, man. Tip my hat to
Appreciate
you.
that a lot, man. Appreciate that a lot. And that's a great way to describe it. One long fucking couch skit. That's brilliant. I love that description.
Yeah, no, because I always enjoy the couch skits, like, but if you always kind of wanting more out of them, like, because yeah, two great characters, in fairness, like, but yeah.
I appreciate that, man. Honestly, I really do appreciate that because they're fun to fucking produce. It's like it's cool, man. It's a really cool thing. Extremely grateful to be the guy that is peculiar as fuck. It's weird as fuck that I'm the kind that makes this shit.
So when did the idea, or where did the idea of turning it into a feature length movie actually emanate from? Like, where was that seed planted, or was this something that you always envisioned yourself doing?
To be honest, I never envisioned any of this, man. In the sense of the Cannaman stuff, this was all couch. This was all books for my boys. So this all
Yeah,
started for there, and I just emerged onwards essentially. But the movie was. I was just thinking season one, season two, season three, and season one and two is the comic, essentially all these comics here. So
yeah.
that's like all 14 comics. That's 7 episodes of season one, 7 episodes of season two. Working on episode 5 of season two now. It'll be ready for Christmas. And that's what my plan was. And it was just I got a message in September last year, beginning of September, from my brother's dad, and he'd said that he'd rattled through season one and season two what was there, and essentially he was like, and he made a wee joke of like, time to get the movie done, and then I was sitting there for a minute joking around in that, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, right enough, this is going to take fucking ages to try and get this movie up and running. So I was like, well, in September, I still had 2 episodes left of the season. I think maybe I had 2 episodes of season two, I think. So I finished those two. I think the last episode I did was in January of 2023, and I just pretty much went full steam ahead from about middle of October 2022. Did all the storyboard. The storyboard took about 2 weeks. Essentially, that was the main. That's like what I think is the fun part, because that's where I'm figuring out what the film is for the first time. After that, you're just kind of like continuously replicating what the initial storyboard idea was, with every move, with every soundtrack thing, with every scene, with every image. You're just kind of like fine tuning the initial image. That's what it's kind of like, and the storyboard is that. So the first 2 weeks of October was that. And by the end of December, I had seen the origin scene, essentially the scene that's the middle of the film where Cannaman goes into the lab and stuff like that initially. And then you get to see his background. That was the very first scene I did. Interestingly, actually, I drew that first scene because I thought if I draw a scene in the middle of the film, I'll have to do the whole film because you can't draw a scene in the middle of the film and leave it there, you know. So I was like, well, if I do the origin scene, which is the middle, then I'll have to do it, you know.
Yeah, no, that was great. I was always kind of wondering, all right, kind of what was the origins there, and yeah, it was quite well put together. In fairness, Donnie's origin, and I don't really want to spoil it for people if they haven't watched it. But look, if they're coming watching this, surely they've got the call out by now because I've put 2 call outs on the last 2 weeks for people to go and watch this. So yeah,
Right.
if we spoil it, I'm sorry, but we need to talk.
No, this is 100%. This is the warning, everybody. This is the moment. There will be spoilers. Like, pause it now and go and fucking cannamantv.co.uk. But yeah,
Boom. There you go. That's it. So hopefully people will take that warning. And but yeah, where Donnie came from, like, yeah, I was really kind of taken back by that, like, because I always just kind of thought Donnie was always Donnie. I never would have envisioned him as just being like a rabbit at one point in time.
well, that's the thing. It's so weird, right? Because in my mind, there's actually my origins initial. Because I was thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make the character solid? And then that means that I would never ever be able to do some kind of like, you know, how in some series of stuff you get characters that have got 8 different backgrounds, and the basis of being able to have interchangeable backgrounds is the theme. Whereas then you have other fucking programs where it's just like one character, and if you were to go out with his character, it would ruin the perception of everybody for the program. And in my mind, I'm kind of in 2 minds of. At the beginning, I did a couch skit, and it was I think it's maybe just called Donnie. No, it wasn't a couch skit. It was a single Skinner, actually, a single Skinner comic, and I think it was in the first 33. And it was Cannaman asking Donnie. I should animate this actually. Cannaman asking Donnie, "Do you remember the first time you got stoned?" And Cannaman tells him, and then Donnie goes, and then no, that's it. Donnie asks Cannaman, "Do you remember the first time you got stoned?" And then Cannaman tells him, and then Cannaman replies to Donnie, "Do you remember the first time you got stoned?" And Donnie's like, "First time I got stoned," and he's standing at a bus stop smoking. He walks over, he's like a normal dude. He's just like a guy, and he with white hair, and he walks over, and there's 2 of these guys at a bus stop, and the guy goes, "Here, join to this," and he takes 2 draws and then turns into the rabbit. And I was like, and Donnie was like, "Do I remember it? I'm fucking still living it," and that's the basis of the single Skinner. At the beginning, I was like, maybe I should do that, but I was fucking about it. But I just kind of thought for an Origins movie, like, I don't know, man. It was like this will be better. This will to have it solid, to have it like he was just a normal thing. And then I'll be honest, one of my favorite parts of the film is when Donnie does that, when he's like, you know, I was going to do the voice there, but nah. I was like, when he does that, Cannaman's a prick over and over. That I was
That's right,
fucking
yeah.
pissed for a few days when that popped in my head, man. I was like, that's quality.
Yeah, that was very good. All right, when he was just transitioning over into being him, and
yeah, and he's transitioning, into somebody that hates Cannaman. You know, he's like, you're a prick. These first words of Cannaman a prick. You know.
That's right. Yeah, it's not that or anything. Like, no, it's Cannaman's a prick.
It's just like fuck, but
Yeah,
no, it's
no,
good
very
fun.
well
I
done.
really enjoyed making that. Like,
I was also surprised, and I don't know if you alluded to this in any other of the comic strips and stuff like that, but their powers, like Cannaman, like, got super ripped and everything in the movie there at one point. Like, he quickly heals and all of this, but the ability to grow plants, like, just off his hand, it became apparent there in the movie.
yeah.
Was this something you always had?
Well, to be honest, that's interesting. I never did any of that. Like, that was the very first mention of any form of power for him to have, and it was weird because up until that point, I was like, what is he, man? Like, I'm trying to figure out what this guy is as well. Quite honestly, that's what a lot of this is. Me going like,
Self-discovery going on here.
you know, what was that?
There's a bit of self-discovery going on here, like, for Cannaman.
Almost explicitly, honestly, man, and it's fucking bizarre, and that's what I think. That up until that point, I never gave him one power, not one thing, and I was like, well, like a boosted endocannabinoid system. I remember it thinking to myself, like, I'm going to make this. It has to be a cannabis-centric film.
Yeah.
So the center of the film is cannabis, right? And that was I was like, so the center of Cannaman is a boosted endocannabinoid system. That's the cannabis fucking theme. It was a formula that was trying to incorporate all form of genetic varieties. That was the 420 formula. That's a cannabis theme. One of the main baddies is Spider-Mite. Again, also fucking influenced. That's a cannabis theme. So, and then so to extend on top of that, I was like, well, cannabis coming out, you can control the plant. You have a symbiosis with the fucking plant. You can do anything with it. So I essentially just, like, there was only really enough time to allude to it. And it's interesting, right? Because out of everybody that's watched the film that I've interacted with, which is a relatively few amount, my son, who's 9, was the only one who watched it 2 days ago, was the only one that pointed this out, right? When he's walking. And so if he's got fucking plants coming in his hand, right, and he's walking, and Donnie goes, "Oh, I'm bursting for a smoke," and Cannaman's like, "Just chill." My son was like, "Here, how's he not just take it out of his fucking hand?" And I was like, that's one of those moments where I was like, everyone just ignore that.
But he can grow it. But then I was thinking the exact same thing. But then I was thinking, as because I know the other side, I was like, well, he can grow it, but then he'd have to dry it and he'd have to like cure it and stuff. It's not as
Yeah.
simply as so as good as like as much as Donnie wanted to smoke and Cannaman can grow it. Like it's not dried and cured yet. Like John's like, sorry, Donnie, you gotta wait at least a week or two before we can smoke this. But hopefully he has some in his back pocket that he popped out like a week or two ago.
But no, it was cool, man, and that's it's the whole process of actually fucking like. It didn't feel like I had to do very much to figure out what the story for the film was. It kind of felt like it was ready there, man. It was just like the moment I would do the movie, it was just like, you know, I'm sure if I was to spend a lot of time like analyzing the film, I could probably find 50 of the main fucking top chapters that are all isolated into it. Probably, some cultural fucking, knock-on effect or something.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed it anyway, but I was a bit disappointed there wasn't more of Amsterdam in it. But
Yeah.
towards the end, you got those couple of photos in there. But yeah, that was just me wanting to see Amsterdam. I was like, right, here we go at the start of the
Yeah.
movie. Their boys are off to Amsterdam. Hopefully, there's going to be some spots I see, and then it was like, no, they never even get to Amsterdam. Poor fuckers.
Yeah. The thing is, I really appreciate that comment, man, right? Because that's one of my things when I was going into it, constructing the story, but I was like, what's my favourite elements of stoner films? And I was like when they say, ta-da, we're going to Amsterdam, and then you hear that music, the fucking, that organ music thing, and then everybody's in the different coffee shops. Well, that was one of mine as well. I was like, I'll have to include this. And it never even happened. I think that like the images at the beginning when you see the people walking into the coffee shops, you see the cannabis on the table with the coffee, and then at the very end, like throwing it in, it was like it's weird. I think it might not even be me intentionally not putting it in. It's like there's only a finite amount of activity you can put into it to make sure it reaches a certain time. So the drawing would have to extend on top of the drawing for that scene might have taken another 6 weeks, and then the knock-on effect and all these different other things. So it's like I was trying to do almost a fast food approach to creating a film.
Well, it certainly didn't have the taste of some fast food anyway. Like this
Oh,
was some
dynamite, man.
gourmet
Appreciate that a
stuff.
lot. Appreciate that a lot.
So how long did it actually take? Did I hear that you started it like last October, like over a year ago?
Yeah, that's right. It was September,
September last
2022.
year.
So, and I did the storyboard for about 2 weeks, and then I started drawing the first scene in October, and I started doing like an audio diary in December. But that was kind of like, excuse me, once I had got into like one because it was weird actually. I think it took me so long because I did the storyboard and I still had one full episode to finish for season 2. So I was doing like finishing off the episode whilst drawing 2 or 3 pages here and there for the movie. So once the episode was done, and I think the end of October, that was when I really was like, now all my attention's on the scene, and that was the origin scene. So essentially, by the time I got to the end of December, I was like, right, the first scene was done, origin scene was done. I'd also finished, I think it was episode 2, maybe Dream State. I'd uploaded that in January, and then it was just full steam ahead from there. But it was, yeah, I felt like the whole time, to be honest, man, I was kind of fighting against the feeling that this isn't going to happen.
Okay.
That's what it kind of felt like, because I was like, it was such a like that. One of the things that I think I said in the Productive Path book is that you've kind of really got to level up. You kind of the main thing you'd have to do is really just increase your stamina for your craft. So just make sure that the things that you normally do, you can do much longer than normal. So if you did a picture for an hour, if you do one for 3 hours, that's 300 times better than the initial fucking thing. And just based on that, that's how I was attempting to always do something better. And that's where essentially, largely, where the movie came in, because I was halfway through season 2, and I was like, right, I've done the full episodes, which is like 12 episodes or 11 episodes. So I was like, I need to try and do something more, because 11 episodes is 11 months. So I've been doing the same format for 11 months.
Yeah.
And I think after that, I was kind of like, this also, it was just perfect timing with my brother's dad messaging, and then thinking, I should really do something bigger. And that's what I was thinking. So by the time I'd done the first 2 scenes, by the time we got to January, maybe February, I started to feel the fatigue of thinking, this is a big task. Like there's a much more different headspace involved with the bigger the task. And it gave me an appreciation when they do movies for 3 and 4 years. I was like, how the fuck? And just that's a huge stamina to maintain on one nucleus of At one point, that's all this is. It's just one movie, it's one song, it's one album for
Yeah.
fucking 3 or 4 years. It's like, it's to be admired.
Yeah, no, it's something that I couldn't really be able to sit down and do myself anyway. At least I'm not that I don't have that kind of a head on my shoulders. I suppose I'm more of a I'm not very creative. I suppose really just to say it. Yeah, my art is terrible. Like so, fair play to being able to do it, but um
Creativity comes in different forms, man. I mean, look at what you're doing now. This is creative as fuck. Like, out of your friends group, out of the people you know, how many people are doing this?
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, no, definitely creativity comes in different forms. But when I thinking of an art, like my
Yeah.
art is definitely not in something like that's beautiful. But no, you could definitely say that about your own artwork, man. It's definitely a beautiful contribution to the cannabis community. Anyway, that's for sure.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you so
there,
much, man. Really appreciate
there
that.
was something I wanted to ask you about in the movie. Is the guy in the hood who's kind of talking to Cannaman at the airport, you know, and he's kind of zones out a little bit and gets caught up. They arrive back on like the ship, and like the guys on the ship like have the symbols and stuff like that. Like I see that symbols like throughout
Yeah.
it. Like the actually I have it here as oh.
Oh, yes. There we go. That's phenomenal.
So yeah, I've seen that throughout it. Like, what was the story there? Like, with that because I don't think it gets wrapped up within it. Is that carry on? Is that leaving it open? Is that what's going on there? Or
I love it, man. I love this question. So, like, right, one of the things I thought was quite cool, right, and it's because it's like that. The film was kind of like an outlet for me,
Mhm.
and reflecting the stage of my life. But it's by no means unique to me and whatsoever. It seems to be that they're for people that are intuitively drawn to it. There's an intuitive sensation for analyzing what it is we're a part of, right? This, what is the essence of this? And then you kind of find yourself searching through different philosophies, but sometimes, often science, different, different forms of science, and then you indulge like exclusively into like, biology or chemistry, and you try and find the origins of life based in these different crafts. And I think what I'm finding more and more and more by doing animations is I'm getting to, it sounds really peculiar, but the more and more I focus on the craft, the more and more I focus on one image, the more and more I focus doing something in the house, like isolated, the more information you learn about the world outside. It's fucking weird as anything. It's really peculiar, and it's like all intuitive, and it's relating to the fact you've got to do extensive focus for long periods of time, and because you're doing the repetition. I mean, you can find this mindset doing the fucking dishes, man.
Yeah.
Like that's that, so that's a real thing. And I think the more information you'll get from that exercise will be determined on the length of time you spend in that place. And so inevitably, when I'm drawing each picture, it's an hour of time to draw the fucking thing. Then it's 45 minutes to color the thing. There's 500 odd fucking images in the book, in the fucking folder, so that's like 500. There's thousands and thousands of hours in the movie, so that's thousands and thousands of hours of me sitting isolated. Now, bearing in mind that process might often be, I'll have music in and all that kind of thing,
Mhm.
but the headspace is the same. And the reason I'm saying this is that it sometimes feels like there's a landscape, and it's like and if you look at, just when I was touching on philosophy there, if you look at like Far East philosophy, they've got the Tao, and then they've got the concept of flow, where it's like the entirety of existence is in a perpetual flow state, and it's ongoing continually, and we're all just microorganisms connected in that river of information. And if you put yourself in a meditative state long enough, you can kind of feel it through senses, and you get to witness it explicitly out within your own life.
Mhm.
And I thought that what was kind of cool about this is it seems to be like, that's why I put it so in the film, the alchemist and the snake and the captain at the end are all the same. So you've got the alchemist, which is given the information of sense of purpose, destiny, and the ability to choose in a sense. And then you've got the snake, which is the symbol of the sacrifice necessary. You've got to confront your fear, and the snake's the same colours as the alchemist. He's got the fucking yin and yang on either side as well.
Yeah, I
And then
noticed
at the
that.
very end, you've got the ship captain.
Yeah.
The ship captain's wearing the same thing. He's wearing the same colours, but what he's got is he's got the symbol of the philosopher's stone. And the philosopher's stone is on his badge, and it's also on the front door of the alchemist philosopher's journey shop.
That's right. Yeah.
And the reason why the philosopher's stone is important is, and it's in alignment with this flow state, with this situation where you engage in a particular craft long enough that you can kind of find something in there. There's something in there, man. It's like the craft reveals itself to you through information, and as a consequence of that process of revelation, you transfer that over to life outside when you're talking to people, and you're engaging in society, you witness these moments happen. So you're enlightened in a sense as a consequence of focusing only on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in that situation, the more and more you focus on one thing, the more you harness yourself as a person. So your personality is filtered down as a consequence of intense discipline, which is necessary. You can't be somebody that's slobberish and kind of like all over the fucking shop with no compass and disciplined. They're antithetical to each other. So by being disciplined in one craft, you develop all these other periphery personality characteristics which are relatively pure in a sense. And the reason why that's important to say that way is because in alchemy there's the transmutation of metal to try and make the whole basis of alchemy is the philosopher's stone. As to well, it's the whole basis of alchemy is to create gold out of poor quality metal, and the poor quality metal is the rustiness, and then to the process that's involved in making the gold is the process of you focusing on your craft. And the reason I don't mean to go on here, but the reason why this is important is because the philosopher's stone is the penultimate goal for anybody that's pushed themselves existentially down one route, which is the craft, which is music, which is fucking engineering, which is science, which is something that's put you into a place where your entire essence is defined by this thing. And if you do it long enough, you can standardize it to a point where you're producing gold every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get people that are master producers, where every song's a hit, or you've got somebody that's an architect, and every fucking thing they make's amazing, and that's your philosopher's stone. They've now gained the philosopher's stone, and all of this concept is kind of wrapped up into like what is time, what is experience, and that's why the alchemist represents that essence, where it's almost like a metaphysical concept of potential and all of time and all of that's ever existed. It's a really weird concept to try and talk about.
Yeah, I partly guessed that was going to be the type of answer I was going to get from that, but I knew straight away that there was a bigger story to that, because I seen the name of that bar that he was walking into. Or was it a bar, a restaurant, cafe, or but
Yeah, it's just a shop. It's just the philosopher's journey. Yeah.
That was it, the philosopher's journey, and yeah, I knew there was just a bit like something there, because we've had conversations in the past as well, and I definitely recommend people check out that conversation. Like, but yeah, you've definitely got very open mind to all of that kind of stuff, and I'm into all of that kind of stuff there as well, with the yin and the yang, with the Tao. I was like big into a lot of this kind of stuff, the here and the now. Even right now, I'm actually doing something at the moment, and a mindfulness kind of course, and
Right.
that what you're talking about, like doing the one thing, but being totally focused on doing that one thing, whether it be fucking doing the dishes, as you said, whether it be brushing your bloody teeth even, but just doing that and only doing that, and being totally present while doing that. And there's a lot of learning goes on within that as well, like in terms of just developing that discipline. Because with the madness of life, like we're always caught up in our heads. And do you even remember brushing your teeth the last time you brushed it? Can you remember washing the dishes when you were washing the dishes? No, because you probably weren't present. You were caught up in whatever craziness was going on in your head, thinking about work tomorrow, thinking about something that happened yesterday. You're never actually really present now. But there's a discipline in that, but there's a massive benefit to that too as well. But having an art form as well just makes that so much more. I think there's even a saying there, even within the martial arts world, it's not, don't fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks, fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. Because that guy knows how to do a fucking pretty mean kick.
Boy sitting there with a massive thigh.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, no, there's a lot of sense to that, alright. But um, what is next then with this? Because I know when we were talking there, you were mentioning that there's a follow up for this.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting, man, because the Donnie movie, that's what will be ready in Christmas 2024.
So Donnie is going to be taking the main stage, so center stage here.
Yeah, Donnie. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, well, the first film was an origins film, and it was the Cannaman movie, and Donnie is the most popular character. Everybody, and it's interesting because Donnie represents the id, as I've echoed a lot of times, and the id's obviously social undesirable impulses, and Donnie is meant to incorporate all of that. So when people message and they're like, I'm really drawn to him, and I see myself in him, it's like, bro. But I was like, but yeah. So when I was thinking that, I was like, so it'd be kind of cool if the Cannaman movie is essentially the story of a hero's journey, then if it was to make it that it was the anti-hero's journey, and Donnie's the anti-hero, and I was thinking that, I mean, I'm in two minds about how much to say, because
Yeah, no,
But
don't
yeah,
spill the beans on that because nobody's seen it yet. Don't want no
yeah.
spoilers.
No, I know. Well, I mean, it's just I'm going to. My intention for this. There's a couple of things I need to do, and it's handy. It's brilliant to be able to talk about it, actually, man, because speak your future, all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. Um, I need to get better at animating. I need to improve, man. I need to. This isn't it. When I'm looking at that, it's like, nah, this is amateur hour. That's what this looks like to me at the moment, right? So I need to get better at animating. So there's a thing, and this is all like self-taught as well. This is just like, oh, it was just intense pressure on. I need to do this, and then it went ding, and it just happened. It was fucking like, okay, now fucking get started. But yeah, so I need to get better at animating. That's the main thing. Um, and that's going to make it difficult to maintain a timeline, I think, because the
Okay.
thing I need to get better at animating is like totally different software essentially, and just to include that, not even to make the entire film that, but to, at the very minimum, to include a section of it where it's very noticeably like this is like a different world type thing. I did a tripping scene in the Cannaman movie,
Yeah.
and to do something similar, and I've got a couple of ideas, but the basis of the Donnie movie is in essence like, um, you know, the shadow. That's all that's going on. It's just a shadow movie, and Donnie's in a state of disrepair because Cannaman's not present, and he's just fucked. And it's going to be that he's just in a total downward spiral. He's in, you know, it's going to be. I'm going to try and make this really gritty. I'm going to make
Yeah.
this like because Donnie it fits his character, you know.
Yeah, well, you kind of got to see a bit of a a change there in Donnie towards the end of that Cannaman movie, all right, in terms of his yeah, what was it, his feelings for Cannaman. They kind of
Yeah.
slightly changed there because he thought he was gone.
Yeah,
That was different
I
to
mean,
see.
that was one of my favorite scenes to make, if not my favorite. That was like I've loved that moment. I was like, yes, because and then the thing is though, as soon as he was back, what was the first thing? I'm just up, like, are you been greeting? No, I'm just upset that you're no deed. It's just straight away, man. He's just like, nah, man, total defensive mode. If Donnie is, I fucking love Donnie, man. Like honestly,
Excellent. Yeah, no, I'm delighted to hear that he's going to be the center stage of the next movie because, yeah, if I'm to be honest, yeah, he's definitely probably one of my favorite character there as well. As much as I like Cannaman, I just think what comes out of Donnie's mouth a lot of the times just makes me laugh. Like it's just there's lots of
it's,
laughs there.
it's a really fortunate position to have. Like Donnie's like an outlet essentially for me. So it's
Yeah,
just in my mind, it's like, what would I be really hard pushed not to say in a situation? That kind of stuff. Like, oh, you know, to say this, and then
yeah,
Donnie's like the vent. He can do that. Interestingly, when like about the agents, that's one of the things. The interesting thing with the Donnie movie story, because I'm in two minds what to do with it. There's a part of me that's like, should I make it like a completely isolated film,
mm-hmm.
or should I make it that it's a run on in some way? And I'm leaning to the second one, run on in some way, largely because of the fact that the things that keep popping to mind. So the process I go through, I did with the movie, and it's with every episode I've ever done. That I just kind of sit and listen to see what the episode's going to be, and
Yeah,
it's most likely the template of my psyche that throws the fucking imagery at me. Um, and I just listen, and the imagery that is getting thrown for this movie so far is Donnie's having a breakdown, psychiatrists involved. There's a there's big pharma's a fucking big deal, agents are a big deal, and 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 Cannaman's dead. That's the main
Cannaman's
thing.
dead.
That's the that's what keeps popping to mind, and that's like yeah, that's where it's at the moment.
No, I look forward to seeing that coming when it does eventually come.
Yeah. Thing
Well,
is, man, if I'm being honest, right, so there's three scenes that I've not said, right? Then I never so because I'm gonna yeah, right, fuck it. The very first scene, oh, this is all I'm gonna say, man, because folk will forget, man. It'll be a year. You know what I mean? We're in December, it'll be a year, so fuck it. But it'll be cool as well if you watch it back after watching the movie and it's actually in it, or I fucked up and ruined
yeah.
it, whatever. Um, but essentially, so Donnie's going to be fucked, and it's going to essentially be that he's going to have to. I'll notice here the very first scene. Fuck it. He's going to have to go to the psychiatrist, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to include a lot of scenes from my favorite films. So one of my favorite series is The Sopranos. So I'm going to include it so that when Tony Soprano he sits in the fucking reception essentially, and there's like a statue in because he's seen the psychiatrist. I'm going to draw all that. So I'll make it like The Sopranos. Like I don't know what you call it. It's like you kind of tip your hat to the fucking thing that was made.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what it's called, but and I'm going to have like the one I've seen for the Goodfellas where Donnie's reflecting back on his relationship with Cannaman, and I'm going to have it Donnie's the Joe Pesci, and he's been like, and Cannaman's like, you're really funny, and he's giving Cannaman a hard time. So what do you mean I'm funny? That scene, I'll have that one in it, and I'm also going to do like just bits and pieces like that where it's kind of tipping my hat to obviously just the
Some of the
grittier side
greats.
of fucking like maybe a scene for Pulp Fiction. Um, But yeah, I think that's
Great
what's
movie.
going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's class. I wanted to go back to something you said there earlier. You were talking about improving your animation because again, this is something like that's completely like I'm way. It's like I'm way it's way over my head, but I know nothing about like. But animating, like what's that actually entail? Like because I don't know, like is there programs out there? Like how do you do it?
Essentially, so do you know what's really funny, man? I only learned that this is how much I've just been like so attempting to make this work, right? I only learned the form of animation that I do about 3 or 4 weeks ago when I was sitting having my tea and I watched this video called The History of Animation, and it got to about 40 minutes in, and then it was said, and then this technique happened. I was like, that's the one I do, and I didn't even have a fucking clue what it was called. But yeah, so it's like, so this is the whole point. The craft you choose will reveal itself to you. There's information in there.
Yeah,
But the animating process, I use Blender and I use GIMP, and GIMP's for the. So what I'll do is I'll draw all the pictures by hand. I'll use obviously
illustrations.
pencil first, and then I'll go over it with pen,
Yeah,
rub out all the fucking loose pencil, scan it on the computer, and then color it with GIMP. And then once I finish coloring it, I'll then fire it over to Blender, and that's where you can kind of synchronize all the scenes. Like if you were to draw 5 pictures of just say somebody walking up a stairs or something, you put it in Blender in a row, and then you can fucking rattle over the 5 images, and it looks like there's movement there. And in the same context, Blender's the software. If you use Audacity for recording, you could just obviously record on there, and then just fire it over to the fucking to Blender essentially, and it's just you just kind of over and over and over, and you watch it being built, and it's kind of weird because I kind of got to the end of when I did season 1, and by the time you're finished doing every single animation, there's this weird because every little bar, like every sound bar, sound clip, picture, like sound effect, they all have kind of different colors. So by the time you're finished doing the fucking the actual animation, there's almost like there's a weird image in the actual software, and it's like after I did season 1, I started noticing that. I was like, that's like a picture, like the entire animation, one scene after one scene, all connected together. It's like an image, often like shaped almost like a dragon, like going up the way, and it's cool. It's really cool, man. You know, and it's mental.
I know what you're talking about in a slight way. I've unfortunately had some experience doing some video editing with the interviews I used to do in the past. I used to use Sony Vegas Pro, I think it was, and I used the Adobe Premiere Pro as well, I think.
Right.
But yeah, same thing. Like you have your audio tracks be one color, your video tracks are a different color, soundtracks, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, luckily I don't think I would have had it as extensive as you had it doing that. But some of those interviews could get a bit heavy because like I was always just tapping in. So if you reference something, I would come in and I'd throw a little photo up and tap
Yeah,
into it.
that's
But
right. Yeah.
it was time consuming, like really time consuming. So I couldn't imagine what it's like to actually do a full on animation, a movie like. Fair play. But you've done all of this like self-taught, so as you're saying, like you've not gone to college to do any course in media animation production or anything.
No, nothing like that. Actually, it's funny because once I'd done about a handful of the books and I'd done a few of the comics, and I'd also done at least a strong couple of dozen interviews for the podcast, I applied for a college in Dundee, an art college, and I sent over the portfolio. I gave them all my best work. And bear in mind, this would have been maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, before COVID, it would
Yeah.
have been. Or maybe just after, probably before COVID, I think. Brilliant. That video was fucked. You may take that out. No. So anyway, man, you come out like that fucking word. No. So and they messaged me and they were like, "Yeah, you've not got enough qualifications from school, so you can't get in." So I had this like
What?
really substantial portfolio, and I was thinking to myself, I
Yeah.
was like, "There is not one person that will be showing up there that's got a fucking." Because I had all the comics done by that point as well. Like
Yeah.
14, there was a solid comic series on all that kind of shit, and they were like, "Nah, you've not got any art qualifications." I was like, "I know, man,
Ah,
but that's ridiculous."
that is bullshit. Like, what age would you have been then? Like,
I've obviously been within the last 5 years.
yeah. So, what age would you have been? Like, would you be regarded
Uh,
as do you have mature
like
student stuff over there? I suppose.
yeah, so that would have been in the category of almost like you get an immediate interview,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
And
And
even
so
at
it's
that
like
point, they were
you're a
kind of
student.
drawn in on your school, your fucking academic from school work, like
Yeah,
shit from
exactly.
years
And
ago.
that's I don't know what it was, man, because it's the same. There was another time as well.
I think they just didn't
There,
like cannabis, but that's my feeling.
well, the thing is, that's where my mind goes, but at the same time, then I try
But
and
you can't
stop because I'm
help
like,
that,
well, is
like, can
it? I
you?
don't know, because there was a guy that I went to, and like when I was with, so my partner, she in the past, she bought me a graphic novel course thing, right? So it was like maybe over the course of, was it what? 6 weeks or something like that. Where we showed up every Saturday for 3 hours, and it was just like a lecturer for the Dundee Uni. And it was like, yeah, just you can pay for this fucking shit. It's just the weekend people, so different range of students. And I remember I had got the same response for him, so he showed up, and I had all the stuff. Didn't tell him at the beginning. I was really keen, and I remember starting. There was one moment where I remember because I showed him the storyboard I was doing, and I opened up the fucking pad and I'm like flicking through it, and he's like, "So what to do this end of course project?" And I was like, "Oh, quality, man!" So he'd never seen any of the work that would ever anybody in the class had done, and I was like, opened up my storyboard of what the work I'd been doing, like the Cannaman stuff, and I was like, "Yeah," and no, it was the same book, but I'd used the pad at the back to create the fucking storyboard for our project for the in the class. So anyway, I was fucking showing him that, and he just kept repeating, just like, "Oh yeah, you've done this a lot." Yeah, yeah. And he just kept under, yeah, you've done a lot. You've done this a lot. And I wasn't even paying attention. I was just kind of like, yeah. This is fucking da 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 da. And he went all quiet after that for the next 2 weeks, and to the point where I didn't even submit the project to him. I did it in the house, and I've got it hanging up my wall. I'm looking at it right now, man. It's called Life, and he didn't even show him it, man. Because you're a fucking dick. Because he just went all quiet after that. Every time I tried to ask for a question, that he was like choosing the fucking janitor to answer before he got to me. You know, I was like, bro, fuck
Oh,
you,
the
man.
dick.
It was so weird, and at the time, in real time, I was kind of like, why has he been such a fucking dick, man? And I think it's because of the fact that he's got a PhD in comics, this cunt, and he's like fucking, he had like a book or something. Like, so I don't know. I think it was because of, like, when you see enthusiasm and youth, and you're mirroring yourself of like what you should have achieved by that stage. And it just comes across as sometimes unusual behavior, like, nah, fuck this dickhead, And I think that's what he was doing, because he just went all quiet. Made it to the point where I didn't even show up in the last 2 Saturdays, and I went to all the other fucking ones, man. You know what I mean? I was just like, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, so the impression so far, like when it comes to down official routes for art, I've just kind of, I don't take it seriously. It feels like, to be a true creative, you really shouldn't be able to fit into a university curriculum.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you for feeling that way. Like, 'cause I'll be damn honest. Like, when I went for my college course, herbal science, like the name itself, like, herbal science, that's what drew me to it. Like, is for me, I wanted to learn about how cannabis works within the body. But like going into the interview for that course, because I was a mature student, I had to go through an interview. I just made a decision before I went in there. I wasn't going to mention cannabis. Wasn't going to come up during the interview at all. When they asked me, why did I want to go out to the course? I was like, well, I'm just interested in about like how herbs work with the human body, how we can have a more natural approach to the human health and stuff like that. And I just want to learn that approach and use that information to help the world or some bullshit like that. Anyway, but did not mention cannabis. But man, first opportunity I got a chance to do like a self-guided project, it was boom, cannabis, like straight away, pharmacology of cannabis, history of cannabis, like you name it, I done it. Like, I wasn't holding back. Had a lecturer actually come to me at one point and said it to me, goes, Martin, are you sure you want to do another project on cannabis, because you done your last one on cannabis, and what am I going to say to somebody who rings me for a reference? Like, yeah, he done a lot of cannabis projects. I was like, yeah, you better say that, because that's what they're going to want to hear if they're ringing you out for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you meet this within the academic world, and like as I said, my course, herbal science, you would think you wouldn't fucking meet that shit there. Like, in the world of art, the creative, like, it's, come on, cannabis, psychedelics, like, it's very much present. It's not essential to be a part of that world, but if you are a part of that world, there's a much higher likelihood that you're going to be partaking in those kind of activities, rather than if you were, I don't know, some other kind of a banker or some shit. Like, if you, like,
Yeah.
we get comic book creators versus bankers. I bet you're going to get more drug takers within the bank, or at least, no, sorry, I'll take that back. You'll get more psychedelic drug takers within the comic book world, and probably more
Yeah.
more heavier drugs there within the banker world. But you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. The way, yeah, they approach it. Like, they shouldn't have this apprehension there, like, because they're missing out, man. Look, if imagine what you could have contributed there, say, within the college life, that world of college life, to the others there, with what you're
Mm.
kind of contributing. Because who else in amongst that actually is in the closet, say, about their use of cannabis and about how cannabis inspires their art. Um, and you might allow them to open up that door and be more free about it and actually improve upon who they are and what they create. Like, but now they've been robbed of that, because they shut the door on you, they ignored you, because they didn't like your cannabis teams.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, man. 1 minute. I'm going to have to put the plug in. Okay, just 1 sec.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice one, man. Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. But all good. Joys of pre-recorded. We can edit that
All right, nice
out.
one. Quality, man. Quality. No, the thing is though, completely agree, man. Right, and it is one of those weird stigma things where it's almost like see, it's very peculiar, more so in the herbal sciences example, I think, because these are supposed to be somebody that's objective, you know,
Mhm.
and it's supposed to be, and cannabis, it's supposed to be scientific approach, and cannabis is like, I'm extremely ignorant to any form of other plant in that realm, obviously, even when it comes to that concept. But cannabis would be a like kind of explicit example of like a symbiotic relationship that you're looking for between herbs and the biology of the human body, and you know, and other animals, endocannabinoid system, obviously, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's more of a fucking red flag, you know, education wise, even credibility wise for that guy, you know.
Yeah, I know, big time. But he lost a lot of credibility in my eyes, anyway. Because I suppose without saying too much, I'm wanting to give the guy away. Or no, actually, it wasn't him. There was another one of my lecturers actually, and he also gave a bit of stigma towards me, but he didn't say that. But this particular guy, man, if you put a glass of fucking wine in front of him, he would be there to hand off you, like, you know. He loved it.
Yeah.
He always talked about wines, talked about all the different kind of flavonoids and the tannins and all of this kind of stuff that would be present there within the wines, giving them their flavors and stuff. And he loved talking about it. I was like, man, I'm just as fucking enthusiastic about cannabis as you are about
Yeah.
wine. And this is like, wine is far more damaging actually to the human body than cannabis. But anyhow, but like they go to the world of comic books. Like, come on, it's like, how can you have a doctorate in comic books and still be stigmatic towards like fucking creators who consume cannabis? Like, come on, surely, like with a doctorate in comic books, you've been exposed to all of that. Like,
I know you would think so, but I mean, this this guy wasn't really, didn't really give that vibe at all. He was really kind of uptight, you know, as a dude. He was, I don't know. I think sometimes you can kind of infiltrate the safety of the lecturer's psyche, because you're a mature student. And I think, but you know,
yeah,
they have this. They're like, oh fuck, right, I'm protected because there's kids I'm talking to, and if and then in the class there's now a 40-year-old. It's like fucking, you know, staring at you. You're like, ah, shit. You really got to adapt your behaviour, and it comes across awkward. But certainly didn't ruin my. If anything, if in retrospect, it was a motivator. It was like, it was because I was like, I'm finishing this project. You know, I was looking forward to doing it. It gave me more of an insight into graphic novels when I was there,
yeah,
and I think, you know, I got an insight into the fact that I was asking the right questions from before he went all weird. Before I showed him my work, quite honestly, before that was after that he went weird. I would ask questions because I was excited to be there. This cost like 300 quid to fucking go to this thing, man.
yeah.
And so I was sitting in the class, and you know, and and it was the first time I didn't even know what a graphic novel was. It wasn't until I seen the gift, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then she started saying, "This is what this does," and I was like, "All right, okay." Um, and I was just stuck in ignorant, man. Fuck. And then obviously, so I'm sitting there, and I remember one question when because he put up this thing on the screen where the guy had done, the graphic novelist, whoever it was, had done this image where it was like a fucking a double spread, but the image was just, it was bizarre. It was just a double spread. It was like across 2 pages, and it was just tons of windows. And it was really extremely impressive. And I remember asking the guy, like, how would you draw something like that? And he was kind of looking at me, and he never said, he's like, you know, and it was just the look of like, that's like an engineering question, you know, and that's like, you know, and it was just that kind of stuff. And so those kind of insights, those kind of things made me feel good because I was like, yes, this is fucking, I'm on the right path here. You
Yeah.
know, it was just it just kind of deflated me at the end when I was like, you know, it was fucking, it kind of shit. You know, it was really, yeah, but at least it's on the wall new, man. You know, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, would you do it differently if you were back there then? Would you hand it in and face him and just be like, come here, what's the story with the silent treatment for the last 2 weeks?
To be honest, I've got a tendency to kind of fucking like, I don't know. It's there's a weird stubbornness that arrives for me if that happens,
Hmm.
you know, and in my mind, because there's a part of me that's like I would have pushed more of like, nah, man, I'm a good guy, you know, you should
Yeah,
like me, that shit.
yeah, I
It's
know.
like, nah, fuck him, man. You know, I showed up with enthusiasm. This cunt's been in the job fucking 20 years with a PhD, and he's going back to the same house that he'd started when he was excited in the job, and now he's got lost his passion, and he's, you know, he's bitter because there's enthusiasm in the fucking audience, you know, and that's what was going on. So it couldn't have went any other way. Really couldn't have. I wish maybe, I don't know. Nah, because I finished the project. That's the thing. That's what for me. It's like, nah, I finished the project,
Yeah,
man, and I did that, so I had it done. You
yeah,
know, so and it took ages. I mean, I'm very much, there's all likelihood once I get to a point where I'm free, I'm going to animate it. I mean, it's like 6 pages, and it's all about like it's all about a wee boy. It's the very first scene's a wee boy, and the very last scene's him dying. And it's his whole life in this 6 pages, and it's all about AI uploading your subconscious, your consciousness to technology at the end and shit.
Oh,
No, it's cool.
interesting.
I was like, this is like a release. This is a cathartic thing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got it. So I'm alright with that.
Yeah, no, that's class. That's class. So is that something that you'll be doing so yourself, moving away from the Cannaman as well? So there's a couple of side projects happening.
The now actually there's a. It's funny you should say that. I'm almost finished. I'm about three quarters of the way through my very first graphic novel. It's called Take Care. I started it in 2020 when I was working at this care home. And I just thought, there's all these fucking social factors present in a care home that's like 100% worth documenting if you get the right perspective. And so I was like, this will be cool. So I was like, I'll create now I've done a graphic novel. And at that time, and I suppose it's never changed with the movie, but at that time I was really explicit about, with each new project I was doing, it had to be something new. There had to be almost a complete newness with it. It'll still be drawn, it will still be something, but I'll have to be like, it'll have to be something new. And that was the essence of it, and I would always figure it out. So that's where the graphic novel came from. I was like, oh, I'll do a graphic novel. Never done that before. I worked there for about, I don't know, about 18 months, maybe a year or so. And I'd done like 30 pages altogether, maybe 25, and I put it to the side because I was focused on the Cannaman thing, and that was in 2020, and now obviously where we're at, and I picked it up again, so I'm about 10 pages in. There's about 65, 70 pages in it. That'll be ready hopefully in the middle of January, and once that's done, then it's just going to be like Donnie movie, essentially focused, with the occasional couch skit, because couch skits take about 3-4 days to do, and it kind of gets in the way of the fucking the big project kind of thing. And there's been that weird fucking thing in my mind where it's like, should I sacrifice the couch skits? Like you put all your energy on the big thing, and then the big thing, the quality of the big thing is inevitably going to be better, So I don't know.
Yeah. It's you mentioned AI there a couple of minutes ago. Do you see yourself utilizing the AI technology that's coming about to maybe help not have to sacrifice the couch skits, maybe get assistance? Like, I know you were talking about improving your own animation skills, but do you see AI coming as being a part of that improvement? Would you utilize it at all?
To be honest, when I see actual AI art, like it feels empty.
Mm-hmm.
It feels kind of soulless, kind of thing. There is moments where it's weird. It's like with plastic surgery or something. When you look at somebody, you can tell they've got it. That kind of shit. You're like, oh, that person's had work done. Clearly, they've got. Look at you know what I mean. So, and you can tell. That's what I can see when I see like AI art. You look at it and immediately recognize that's that's not been human constructed. To then go into the realm of value for each piece of art for AI and all that kind of thing is a different conversation altogether. But personally, I don't like it, and I think it's because of the fact that I do all this stuff manually, and it seems to be that there's like it's weird because there's actually two parts to it. It seems to be that this inevitably is like going to be able to condense down the manual labor down to a fucking
Yeah.
a keyword. You know what I mean? And that's what it's like, and it's done in seconds. And there's something. It's a really. I think it's more of a philosophical question than anything. It really is, and it's. I think the answer is going to be given, but it's weird. I'm not a big fan. I don't really engage in that kind of shit. When I'm talking about trying to improve the animations, what I'm thinking of is extending because I use Blender for the rendering and stuff like that. I could also use Blender for 3D animating, where I'll like make a big circle. I can make Cannaman's head. I think we've all seen little clips of like behind the scenes graphic moving about and shit. When you see The Simpsons or Family Guy, so I just make the shape of Cannaman's head. Like it'd have to be, and that's the only thing. I think the textures would change, but sometimes you have to sacrifice some things for improvement. But at the same time, it's also that weird caution thing where you can sacrifice these things, and it's actually the original that keeps its core integrity for the value and all that shit. So I don't know. But yeah, I definitely need to fucking up my game when it comes to animating.
Yeah, definitely. And some of this processing equipment or power that you need there for some of that software is crazy. I was using the Adobe suite there, and as part of that, they had this like a puppet animation type of thing. So like you could create your own puppet, upload it, and then you could control it through the camera. And I was toying around with it there for a little while, like, but man, you really need a lot of processing power for that stuff. Like,
That's a good shout actually, because I'm just on all this on a laptop, like it's just, and all the software's free as well, so it would be
really, yeah, fair enough.
so
Yeah, no, I used to do a lot of my video editing on a laptop before, and big game changer switching it up to the desktop. Like the
Yeah.
big difference of rendering a video for 12 hours versus like a half hour.
Yeah, I feel that, like leaving it on overnight and shit. It's
Yeah,
like, fuck.
man. And then you get up in the morning and it's like fucking after crashing halfway through, and you're like, oh, I gotta start again.
Laptop's melting into the table.
You know, that's it. Like, oh, such a fire hazard. But yeah, upgrading the old so or the hardware is definitely has been an improvement there for myself anyway, for sure.
No, I'll have to think of that. Like, I'll have to do it.
I see you hitting the pipe there a couple of minutes ago. Is
Yeah.
that the hash you're hitting up? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It was really weird. That's like the first time in years, man, that I managed to actually get a bit. But I think it's that thing where it could be like, fucking 2 streets over. You just don't know the right person.
Yeah. What's the scene like over there at the moment? Because I know things have changed a lot there with the amount of people now been getting their private prescriptions. But have things changed up over there? Have you got a private prescription yourself? Actually, I should have asked.
No, I don't have one. So I've actually somebody had messaged me over, and in the cannabis world, and they said to me, "You need to change over. This will be much more economically sustainable
Mm-hmm.
for you."
That wasn't our buddy
But
Alan, was it?
what you saying?
That wasn't our buddy Alan, was it? The
No,
NIQ
no, it
guy.
wasn't. It wasn't. I'm sure he will fucking still say the same thing though. Quite right. But no, and I just think I've not even it's paperwork, man. I fucking. It's like who can be asked phoning the doctors when you go to a doctor? That's how I see this. It's like, fuck it. I've got cannabis in the tin, man. Saves a phone call.
Yeah. I don't know, man. If I could do it here, I would probably do it anyway. That's for sure. Having that weight off your back, just having that not having to deal with the cops in that same way. Even though
Yeah.
I seen a couple of videos there not too long ago, patients kind of getting hassled by the cops still over there. But it's still like when you go to court, if you got a prescription, they have to honor that shit. Like, at
I don't
least.
know as well. I think, yeah, that's a good point. Like going to court and having to honour the prescription, that's a good point. But I think there's something that, like when I wrote that book, that A Case for Cannabis, and
Mm-hmm.
there was an impression that I got when I wrote the thing, just because I did like intensive fucking research on what was going on, and that was my introduction, really properly academically in the cannabis, all the different factors of cannabis, essentially. And one of the things I noticed was like this weird timeline of private clinics popping up, at the same time as there's mass busts happening, and
Mm-hmm.
there seemed to be a weirdness happening. And I'm aware that when it comes to any new industry and all that kind of thing, there's going to be teething issues, but there's something kind of bittersweet. It's definitely people that require cannabis medically to have a decent quality of living. That's not what I'm talking about here. Because you have to access your medicine. I just think that the network of private clinics is kind of bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it kind of feels like to me. And I just think the idea that it's like, so I was thinking about this earlier. The idea that you kind of have to have like a medical fucking like, I'm using cannabis fucking, I've got a medical certificate when you don't need it, just so you can use your cannabis, is like, nah, man. I'd rather stay on the other side where you'll get busted for it. Just for the sheer fact of the fact that it's kind of like that's not a win in the cannabis world. Remember back at the beginning of the 2000s and shit, that's obviously we'd be smoking or whatever. Like, I don't know, man. When you think back to like the cannabis is going to be accessible, it's going to be accessible and be a specific fucking amount of money and all that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
There's something bittersweet about that. You know what I mean? There's I don't know, man. There's something I probably don't know enough about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. How difficult is it to get it for yourself at the moment? Is it
Well, that's the thing. I think that's the thing. It's cannabis is like a bottle of coke, man. Like
it's that
anybody
easy?
can get cannabis. It's not like, I think it maybe from like a year or two ago when I think they did it in Durham, where they weren't focusing on like people that were like low town growers or like cultivating for personal use or that kind of stuff. They didn't really. I don't know. It's not really, unless you're being like, I've got a warehouse and there's fucking that kind of shit. It's not really an issue kind of thing. Everybody. Even when I think about local towns and shit like that, you got people behind the till, and you got the fucking like then the people in the queue and shit like that. It's like, nah, man, it's not really. It's maybe I'm just doing the best. It feels comfortable. That's what it feels like. It feels like you can easily access cannabis, and nobody that I know like gets busted because nobody's doing enough. There's no. It's just personal. It's just like alcohol or something,
Yeah, no, I hear you. I still can't help but, as you're saying, I think of Gary Hughes, who's fucking. I think he's behind bars still at
That's
the moment,
that's a
man.
that's a different score altogether.
Eh,
That's an explicit example of the fucking illegitimacy of prohibition.
A hundred
That's a
percent,
Gary
man.
Hughes and your gentleman Patrick Moore,
Patrick
the
Moore here in Ireland,
and
that's right.
individuals like that. That's a different game altogether. You know.
100%. Like that shit breaks my heart. Like I feel bad that I suppose I kind of had to take a step back, focus on the family a bit there over the last year. Like, but
Mm.
man, I would love to have been beating the drum for those two guys, because what an injustice it is to be locking them up. Like, both men, care providers, like for patients,
Mhm.
vulnerable people out there providing what they needed, what the government health providers are failing to provide, and we're fucking locking them up. Like,
Mhm.
it's like that the people who should really be behind bars are the policymakers who've kept this illegal for so long and have refused, like, to like even allow researchers to do better, more effective research. Like, I can't help
But
but
that's
go on. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. No, sorry, man. That's what I was going to say. But that's my whole point as well. Like what you're describing there is the exact illegitimacy of why I find it difficult to even engage in a clinic because
Yeah.
those guys were doing the same thing as the clinic. They were doing exactly the same thing, and yet they went to fucking prison, and yet the clinics are able to fucking profit because the individuals that have instigated the clinics are wearing fucking suits, man.
Yeah,
You know what I
man.
mean? And
Yeah.
that's where it's like, I'm not for joining the fucking clinic and
Yeah.
sitting here when they've got the same guys that are doing the same thing, they're getting fucking time for it. That's unacceptable.
No, I hear you on that one, man. Those clinics are actually encroaching on into Ireland now at the moment. I don't know if you've seen that there. I think there's like three or maybe even four of them now after announcing that they're going to be looking after Irish patients. So if you're an Irish patient, then if you have qualified to access cannabis under the MCAP, or the Medical Cannabis Access Program, or a ministerial license granted to you, they'll now provide your cannabis to you through their private clinics. But they're starting to come over here now to Ireland as well.
Mm.
But
I wouldn't take away the utility of them, by the way. My opinion is because of the fact that I don't need cannabis for a medical reason.
yeah,
If you're somebody that requires cannabis medically and it's the only form of access, it's a good thing because your quality of life's going up as a consequence of that
yeah,
access. The thing that I kind of resent is that this is the only opportunity, this is the only out that they've given us.
yeah.
That's the thing I resent. It's like, that's not acceptable.
No.
But for individuals that require it, it's a fucking lifesaver. But I'm resentful of the fact that this is the only, they've managed to really keep a tight grip, and it's just kind of, and that's what I mean back in early 2000, and then when I think back to where it is now, it just feels like they've had really tight control of this, it's
Oh,
just,
massively, man. It's crazy because you've basically, in one hand, you're criminalizing people. Like, again, we mentioned Gary Hughes and Patrick Moore, but there's been so many other patients there, like, who've been caught, like, with personal possession, and now all of a sudden, like, you're still criminalizing people for possession, unless they've got the private prescription there.
mhm.
But like you said, like, it's, can you afford a private prescription? Is it that much hassle? Is it that easy to get cannabis that you just couldn't be bothered to go get it? Like, but it's not to say that your use of cannabis isn't going to be like, you as an adult should be able to decide, like, what is beneficial to you or not. Like, shouldn't need a
Mhm.
government there to be deciding that. Like,
No, I fully agree. I mean, I did an animation about this, and I just called it UK Medical Cannabis.
mhm.
And essentially, it's the news reporter speaking to a guy that's just got a prescription, and in the background, Donnie's been growing, and he's getting busted, and he runs away whilst the guy's talking about his prescription, and then it cuts to the studio, and Cannaman's talking about that basic
Yeah,
like formation of like you can have that dynamic. You have a clinic next to somebody that's grown, and extracting oil themselves and doing potentially a purer and better job. Because how much fucking criticism of these clinics had, man, mold, insects, fuck's sake, man.
oh, I've seen some horrible stuff. All right, yeah. Even I was up with Alan Robinson a few months ago there, up above in the vape lounge, and he was showing me there one of his tubs, and he was just like, "Look at this shit!" Like, and it was basically all just the small little popcorn, not even popcorn nugs, like less than popcorn nugs, a lot of swag, if you want to call it that, like,
Yeah.
the old crumbs at the end of the bag. And yeah, it was pathetic. Like, it was like, they call this stuff medicine.
Mhm.
But then he did
Yeah.
show me a couple of the tubs, and it had some like proper buds in there as well. So that was good to see.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I mean, it's kind of like cannabis is difficult though. If you think about it, like the cannabinoid profile varies depending on the plant, the stage of the plant. From the popcorn bud at the bottom is going to have a slightly different phytochemical profile from the ones at the top, just based on light exposure. You know what I mean? The density of the trichomes and all these different things. So it's like, it's what makes I think extracts so fascinating because you can have so
hmm
many different forms just based on the time, based on the technique, based on the quality of the product. It's
Yeah, one
cannabis is it's a really fascinating. thing altogether,
I would
really.
agree with you there though, on the extracts being easier to standardize in that regard, like trying to throw on the herbal science kind of hat there. That was
Mm.
always my issue because over the years I've kind of had many people kind of come and asking me about like trying to get access to oil, and I was always just my issue is like testing around that quality assurance, like because if you're a patient, you want to get consistency in there and what you're getting. And I know patients currently aren't getting that on the black market, but it's great to see now there's some great products that are even available to the patients on that private prescription system in the UK. But in other places, the likes of, say, if you go on to Tilray, that big giant fucking Canadian company, um, they've got some really great oils, different kind of full spectrum ones. But again, standardized. That's what patients need. For the likes of myself and yourself, the connoisseurs, yeah, we want some really nice flowers.
Mm. Always.
But unfortunately, those guys wearing those white jackets, like these private clinics, they're not providing what we as connoisseurs are looking for.
Yeah.
They are able to provide for the patients who need quality medicine, like, but for people who are after like some really nice looking buds, you're going to be disappointed, unfortunately, by some of these clinics.
It's quite interesting as well. Like, 'cause that's what makes me think about that. It's like the varying models of cannabis that you can have, and that's how I think it's like that we've been given the model. And I think it's just it could just be my skepticism that thinks that there's like a malevolent profiteering basis behind it. It could just be the fact that this is just teething issues, just the fact that it's like these just little moments. I don't know.
There's a lot
It's
of
quite a
money after
diverse
being made
fucking
off of
topic.
this. There's a lot of money after being made off of this to date. Um,
Yeah.
like patients are after getting access, they're after benefiting, but man, they're after paying through the nose. So you see those fundraisers parents are having to do to get access for their kids to continue getting access to this life-saving medication.
Yeah.
Like it's
Well, that's a
crazy.
good,
The
yeah, that's a
thing,
good point as well because it's the same thing over in Scotland. Like they use fucking advisory boards as like pieces. Like I think we've got what is it? There's a Scottish Health. Was it Sam or something like that over
yeah,
here? We have, and it's and essentially it's they go based in not nice guidelines, but fuck, I shouldn't even have quoted this shit, man, because I forgot what the actual names are. But essentially, there's a structure in place which is kind of inhibiting the ability to push
push
cannabis forward,
medicines. Yeah,
and at the same time as like very obvious evidence. So there's a weird fucking like
they won't approve it because there's
yeah,
not
I don't know.
enough evidence there. Evidence, what they say is like these clinical trials, these phase 3 clinical trials, which fucking
Mhm.
cost billions to do, and nobody's really going to do it on cannabis flowers because, like, say if you do it on your cannabis flower, if you're a medical cannabis company and you do this study on your cannabis flower, any other company can come along now and use that information for their benefit. You've now paid hundreds of millions for it, and you can't protect it because you can't put a patent on cannabis.
Mhm.
This is the issue at hand. Like, is anybody else can come along and you've now done a study on a certain chemovar, like a chemo profile of cannabis, but you can't patent that if it's from the cannabis plant. What you can patent maybe is an extraction process, but even all these extraction processes at the moment, like it's very hard to come up with a unique and novel one, novel enough where you can patent it. So these studies aren't going to be done. So then the likes of these nice guidelines and some of these advisory boards that won't approve cannabis are going to continue not to approve it because the studies won't be done because nobody's willing to pay that amount of money to do it. But yet, like we've had millennia of use of cannabis. Like how much more evidence do you need to support its use? Like, but in saying that, like Karen Gray, she's up in your neck of the woods. She's up in Scotland. Her son Murray, like they're still not being approved under the NHS. They're still having to privately fund their child's medication. Like
Yeah,
it's
no,
just
that's right,
wrong.
man. I mean, Karen was actually at the premiere. Actually, it was brilliant to meet her
Oh,
for the
brilliant.
first time. Yeah, no, it was brilliant. But it's this situation is just unfortunately not uncommon. There's a lot of these situations that are present, and it's I don't know what you can do. That's what makes it look like this is fucking like the longer there's so-called ignorance towards pushing this through and making it more readily accessible, the more profit goes into a privatization model.
Yeah,
So it's like that's where it makes me kind of like, well,
put on the tinfoil hat
there's
a
like there's
little.
all this ignorance, there's all this information, there's a huge amount of ignorance with every single set of politicians that comes across and advises people, everyone,
Yeah.
and yet at the same time, this makes more money over this side. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, you can't help but be a little bit conspiratorial there, all right? Like
I know, man.
thinking
It's so
that,
tinfoil hat shit.
yeah, you can't help it though, like, 'cause you got little kid, man. Like when I was talking to, I was Cole. I can't think of Cole's mom's name now, but I was talking.
Lisa.
Who's that?
Lisa.
Lisa Quarrel, that's right, man. Boom, there you
Right.
go. When I was talking to Lisa, she was telling me like that Cole actually underwent brain surgery, and they were actually wanting to go and do a second round of brain surgery on Cole before actually being giving him the cannabis medication. So they were willing to actually do an experimental brain surgery before it had been proven cannabis as a medicine, like for this young fella. She's gotten
Mm.
access. He's doing fucking great. Like on after getting it, he's not had that second brain surgery. Like, but crazy to think what could have happened had they done it. Like, you know, that stuff. Yeah, crazy. But look, sorry, yeah, we kind of went off there on that one. Because like I think it's very relevant to be bringing this in every time. I suppose when we're talking about the cannabis community like that, yeah, there is people behind bars. Yeah, there is like parents having to fundraise privately for prescriptions for kids, um and then there's great creators like yourself as well. So I think all of that has to be highlighted every time. Like we're a very diverse bloody community, you know. It's not just these kind of what would you say the stoners. Like no man, we're all one. We're all looking out for one another. We all love this
Oh,
plant, and we all need it to kind of survive and thrive on this fucking crazy planet.
yeah, no, fully agree, man. But I'll be honest, like like being included in the same category as individuals that have genuinely suffered because of cannabis, I feel awkward. Like I'm in bubblegum land in the cannabis spectrum. You know what I mean?
Mm.
If we're looking at cannabis over the course of spectrum, and I'm on the side that's got fucking cartoons in it.
Yeah,
There's that side over where people are in a fucking jail cell and their kids can't get medicine. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So that's what I think it makes it so fucking raw. You know, but I'm not. I'm in the same spectrum because just from the plant, but there's two different worlds altogether. Like,
Oh, totally different worlds. Yeah, no, all I said, the only thing that unites us there is just the plant being central.
yeah,
You know, as I say, towards all of our kind of surviving and thriving on this, like whether it be because you just want it to enhance your creativity, to
yeah,
de-stress after work, or because you know you need it on the other completely extreme side to fucking stay alive. You know, I
yeah.
kind of play on both of those really. Like I kind of at the moment now, I've touch wood seizure free for over been seizure free now for nearly 2 years actually.
Well, good man.
So long may that continue.
Yeah,
But that's not to say that while I do use cannabis as a medicine more heavily now than I ever had before, I certainly do enjoy it. But since actually, and I say this in the last 2 years now, since actually using cannabis more heavily as a medicine, um, I tend not like I used to never actually smoke in the morning like, but now I will. I'll get up. I'll make sure I'll have a hit in the morning. I'll be fine then throughout the rest of the day. But I tend not to get like as high as I used before. Like
mm.
you know, you're like I'd want to be having a few dabs or something like if I wanted to be getting, you know. I think I was talking to somebody else the other night. Like, it's like I don't smoke to get high. I just smoke to stay normal.
Yeah. No, I feel you, man. I'll be honest, my tolerance is probably, I mean, I'm way in the opposite of that. Like, I would say, like, I think if I was to have a dab, I'd be stoned for about 4 days. Like, I probably would be, man. Honestly, like, it's just, bear in mind, I have like pipes throughout the day. I've got a couple of joints sitting. But dabs, man, that's fucking rocket fuel. Like, that's like Red Bull of cannabis, really.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's few and far between. I get to try it. I actually sacrificed a bit of bud there earlier. I had some nice high purity alcohol, so we washed the buds of their goodness, and we're evaporating the alcohol now using just the ambient room temperature. So hopefully
Nice.
there in the next 24 hours, I should be scraping off some nice sticky goodness, and I'm gonna put that away for Christmas then.
Quite right. I thought you were going to say, do you know when you said you got to put a nice wee bud to the side? I thought where you were going was with hair straighteners. I thought that's what you were going to do next.
Oh no, those days the hair straighteners are well behind us. What I do have actually is got one of those little steel tubes you can pack it full of your trim, your bud or whatever, and blast the butane through it. A little butane hash oil maker, like really nice stuff. That, but yeah, I don't really like using the butane that much.
Yeah. No,
The
I'm
alcohol
no,
seems a
I'm
bit
just a
easier.
fucking hash guy, like, definitely.
You just like the hash, yeah.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I think it's just what's available as well. But even in the past, when I've had two or three of them sitting, I mean, it's when I think about it, it's my first introduction to cannabis. You know, it was like there's always green there because obviously you got to have a joint. Let's be honest, that's the
Yeah.
rules. But it's like, but the hash was my very first. Like, I hadn't. I mean, I remember the first time I smoked green for the first time, and it was like like your whole body was stoned.
Yeah.
With the hash, it was like your head was stoned. Whereas when you had the fucking green, it was like fucking hell, man. Legs are shaking and shit.
Yeah, was a soap bar for you over there?
Probably, man. I mean, back then it would have been like, this is ultra Afghan fucking Jamaican style. But I would have been having a Tesco bag hanging at the side of it, most likely, man.
Yeah, soap
Um,
bar. 100%.
yeah,
Yeah, that's all we could get here initially. Like weed actually wasn't even present in Cork until, geez, I'm gonna say probably 2007, 2008, maybe, something like that. Yeah, up around that recession time, and then the hash started getting tainted with like diesel and shit, and
yeah.
people weren't really buying it that much. Even though I knew people still buying it and smoking it, despite the fact that it was like fucking sucking on the exhaust of a tractor. Yuck, like the rot. Oh, it was rotten. But yeah, weed started coming around then, and it was like it was all just White Widow or Orange Bud. That's all you could get, and it was White Widow because it looked white, or it was Orange Bud because it had orange hairs. There was no other strains existed here from from my experience at that time.
Right.
Anyway, like it was funny, like. But yeah, there's been a complete evolution of the scene over here since then. Thank God.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And do you know what I think's helped massively? Grow tents.
Mm-mm.
Like that's the like, that is really up the standard of cannabis production. You know,
Yeah,
like on a generational scale, I would say, because before 2000 there wasn't Amazon, and it was Amazon with grow tents and mixed with desire to grow cannabis. It was just a perfect recipe. So even though it might have seemed kind of disconnected from the movement and that kind of thing, I think the technology of some like establishing the grow tents, obviously for domestic use, and Amazon
yeah.
helped greatly. You know, for opening up.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, definitely. I was lucky enough to work in a grow shop there for a while back in, was it 2015? No, 2014 even, I think it was. And I was blown away actually. I thought before I went working in there, right, it's gonna be a nice cushy job. It's gonna be hard, customers coming in here. How many people are actually growing weed? But fuck me, man, it was a busy little shop, like and for a grow shop, like when you think, all right, the only thing that sells is equipment for growing cannabis. It was quite busy, you had enough customer. Like I was taking in a couple of hundred quid every day, like inside in the shop. It was quite busy. Um, and the way I would describe it is that if our cops were to bust a grow house every day, a person growing just cannabis for their own personal use, that's what I'm saying as a grow house, um, they would be busy for the next couple of years. And just still not be nowhere near finished. Just so many people actually growing cannabis out there now, for themselves, and COVID helped contribute massively to that number as well. Thank God, there's some good things came out of that nasty era, the
Yeah,
COVID
that was
era.
bizarre. Fucking parallel fucking universe shit.
Man,
Weird.
it's crazy to think that should even happen. Like it's like, man,
Yeah.
like, as you say, like it's like some Twilight fucking zone episode.
I say that to my son when we're walking up to school. We have to walk through Tesco's, and I always say that. I was like, what a queue right down to here, man.
Yeah.
Like away in the corner of the car park, you're standing in a fucking line. You're like kids, and in my mind, it's kind of, I don't know. If we're going down fucking conspiracyville, it was like 100 years after the fucking like the 1919 thingamajigger, the fucking influenza thing. So
Mhm.
which means that if we're going based on timelines of terror, then in a few years, maybe I don't know, a dozen or so, there should be a war, and then another one, and then we should be all right
Do
for
we
another
not have
fucking
enough
70
wars
years.
going on at the moment, man?
Yeah, well, no, but I mean more. I don't know. These are, I don't know. Like we're no, I don't know. We've not been shook, so it's not really happening properly.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And we've not really been affected by a lot of what's going on in the world over here in the West. COVID fucking got us and shook us up a little bit, like, but
Yeah.
like you've seen some of the atrocities that's going on over there at the moment, like between like the whole Russia Ukraine thing, the whole Palestine Israel thing. And they're not the only places like where there's suffering going on. Like there's untold suffering going on in all sorts of places, but we're
Mm.
just not seeing it on the level that we're seeing it from those two places. Um, but the stuff that's coming out of Israel and Palestine there lately, man, that stuff is after, man, like, geez, stop the world, get me off. Like, I don't want to share this planet with these fucking people that do this kind of stuff to one another. Like
Right.
how the fuck can we exist in a world where you can literally pick up the phone and have a video call with another person and still have to drop bombs on people? Like,
Mm.
how can these two things coexist? Why aren't these people like fucking sending bombs either way? Like, just getting on the video call, like
Mm.
seriously, if you don't like each other that much, like I've a gym down here with a boxing ring. Like, do you not want to just get in there and start it out? Like, why do we have to be getting all these innocents killed in the meantime? Like, oh man, what a horrid way to for us to be treating one another, like, you know, because at the end of the day, look, we're all human, like, you know, there's no difference, man. Underneath this thing, we're all fucking the same, pretty much, like, fucking trying to religions dividing us and all this kind of bullshit, like, I just think, like, with the level of technology we have today, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to coexist, like.
No, I fully agree. Honestly, I really do, man. It's interesting because, like like ants have wars.
Ants, yeah.
Yeah, you know. So in my mind, it's like there's something biological
Mm-hmm.
that seems to be present. So it's like it was. I don't think we can ever get rid of it, but it's more about the containment of it. And I think
Yeah.
there's like because one of the main things that pops to mind specifically with like Israel and Palestine and stuff like that is like when you talk about Israel and Palestine, you're really like almost implicitly talking about how the world in its essence functions.
Yeah.
You know, you're like corporate fucking background. Do you think that there's a fucking hidden hand of people? Do you think that this is just like actual normal dude president guys just falling out, shit like that? You know, it's like what do you believe's going on in the world? And I think I kind of make for shit conversation because I don't believe that these things are accidents. I believe that there is like that these people. This is
I hear
extremely
you, man.
personal
No, I
beliefs.
hear
You
you.
know,
Go for it, man. Express that
I
shit.
know. I was gonna say that like this is like ultra fucking this is my own beliefs and that kind of thing. But I believe that these people that are the main fucking you never see their faces that they're hidden behind the like all events that happen. Fucking these are orchestrated by these individuals.
Kind of a little bit what's
For
going on there in the Cannaman movie, yeah. A little bit
what you saying?
what was going on in the Cannaman movie. Like there was people behind the scenes there, like just to bring
Yeah,
it
that's a
back. What
great
you?
point. That's a great point. Yeah, man, it's just that's all it is, man. It's just fucking
Yeah.
firing it down in the movie. But I do, man. I believe that that's what's going on. And I believe that the values that they hold are not the same values that we have. You know, yeah. I don't think that the world's like fucking
No,
random acts of chaos.
yeah, no, I hear you, man. I don't know if you see what happened here in Ireland recently, but there was a big riot above there in Dublin after some little kids got stabbed. There was 3 young
Yeah, I think
girls
they
got
post on
stabbed.
Instagram. Right.
Yeah, by some Algerian guy, I believe it was. But there's been a lot of tension going on here in this country. But much like what you're saying, like I believe like a lot of this tension, like it's been allowed to be built up to the point to where you get to this breaking point, and when you have fucking a serious incident like that, next man, boom, boiling point, the pot boils over, and it's an absolute mess. And what we see then following after that, like straight in government, oh yeah, we've policy here that we're going to put in place now to give the police more powers. And you know what they're going to be utilising here? That they're giving the police the power to utilise artificial intelligence to scan video CCTV footage to use facial recognition technology in doing so to scan hundreds and hundreds of hours in minutes to be able to pinpoint people and all of this kind of stuff. Like, so they're giving them untold powers, but much like kind of what you're saying, like there's, yeah, I like to be a bit conspiratorial. Like I think a lot of this has kind of been allowed to happen, like on a global scale. Like not that our guys in government here, I think they're only fucking pawns as well to something on a much grander scale above all of that. But again, like who these people are, you can't put a face to it, you can't put a name to it. Like, do you want to call them the Illuminati? Go for it. Like, but I don't know who the hell they are. Like, but I definitely do think there's a lot of fucking people benefiting off of the bad shit that happens. And there's a lot of people suffering. Then you know, no, the little people don't benefit a lot off these changes. To be fair, like, this facial recognition technology, all right, yeah, they use it for the riots, but then afterwards, what's not to say that now they're going to start using it to use all the cameras around the city and track your movements around the city. Oh yeah, Martin was at the grow shop there earlier. Oh, what's he at the grow shop getting that for? Oh, he must be growing cannabis. Oh, let's go. Do you know, you see, like, where, again, all of a sudden, like, you know, you've got this fucking totalitarian state where you can't even scratch your fucking, pick your nose without the government fucking knowing, like.
No, you're right, man. Because I mean, that's the thing that put to mind is so after like 2020, when we all got to go back out, after being in the house for fucking weeks at a time, you walk into the co-op and there's like you walk over and there's a camera right in your face where you see yourself walking up to the fucking desk. Yeah, like I don't know if you have them over there, man, but it's really bizarre.
No,
Take a photo of it, man. Like you walk up and it's like you see there's a camera, right? So it's like
to let you
you
in.
know, and that was what you saying?
That's to let you in, like.
No. So it's already so it's at the self
Oh,
service
the
bit. You
self-service. Ah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you
sure.
just walk up, man. There's a fucking you see yourself as
Yeah,
if it's a mirror you've walked up to. So
that's strange.
and it's a camera, So it's yeah, man. It's a fucking it's a weird thing to think about the emerging police state. I don't
Yeah.
know.
You've no kids. You've no kids, Connor.
Yeah, I got two, man.
Oh, you have two kids, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
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 sure.
yeah.
Man, what am I saying? You were mentioning a while ago, sure, your son was watching the Canna movie, which so
I still got it, man. Like,
you're certainly got that thinking on, like, what kind of a world is kind of coming down the line for them. So in terms of like, what kind of freedoms are they going to have? How's life? What's life going to be like that they're going to live compared to what we're living at the moment now, like?
so it does pop into my mind, man. But what I think I do to distract myself is I try and get them to focus on. It sounds fucking boring, but I try and get them to focus on like essentially personal development.
Hmm.
What is it you're here to contribute? Why are you here to contribute?
There
And
we
that's my
go.
main fucking focus because
Yeah,
it's kind of overwhelming to think about what life is going on. So it's
yeah,
like if you can contribute something positive, then in the grand scheme of things, subjectively, interpersonally, you're doing the thing.
yeah,
So yeah, and also there's also part of me as well that thinks there has never been a time that's like never been new. So it's like this has happened before. It's just that it's just fashion's different.
hmm,
I do believe that it's like yin and yang thing we were talking about before. That there's this constant flow state that of generations, and I think that what we're experiencing right now, technological revolution, a shift in mind frame, all these different other things. It's happened before. And it will continue to happen. I think it's just always experienced as novel by the generation that's experiencing it for the first time. I think,
yeah,
which is always the case. And I think that's because it's always the case.
yeah. No, I'm very much in the same kind of frame of mind there as yourself with the kids as well. Very much in terms of personal development, but I suppose in terms of the importance that the role they play within their own community as well. I suppose I like to lead by example in that one. A lot of people might kind of think that because you've kids, that you shouldn't be out there talking about your use of cannabis. Like, but to be fair, like when I think about it, like me talking about this is the better society, and it's not just the
Mhm.
better for me; it's the better for my kids too. Like, so I like to think that I suppose I'm in a more of a positive role model in showing my kids like that. Look, yeah, we can all be a contributor to society, like, and to have it shaped in the way in which we believe is going to be better for us and others around us. I suppose really like. So that's why I'll be running for government again if when the elections come up here in Ireland.
Yeah, really? Are you going to do that?
Yeah, no, definitely. There'll be an election here. Probably around this time next year, October, November next year. I believe there's going to be a national election. There's local elections coming up as well soon. I don't know will I run in the local elections. You see, I've much more of a chance of getting elected in the local elections.
No.
Um, and I don't know is there much there within the local stuff for me, like, because obviously a lot of the local stuff is going to be dealing with housing and other kind of issues there within that, and that's all very important, like, but for me I'm very much at the, like, want to get up to the heart of this, like, and deal with it from there, like, where the policy is made, like, above in our house of government, like, so we'll see. We'll see. I might run in both of them for the crack, and just make sure that drug policy is a part of the conversation, and our community is represented.
I think it's fucking right, man. Definitely, like, do that to its fullest, man. Because that's like that could be that had one of those moments where it's like you see it across the world where it's like rogue campaigner fucking takes the wind and fucking is smashing everybody. That could be you, man. That
Yeah,
happens. That's a thing that happens. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I was quite happy with my first run of it. I ran in one election already, and I actually beat somebody.
Right.
I wasn't the first person eliminated. There was another person eliminated before me, and that person actually was an experienced politician who had run previously with as part of a party, the Workers' Party. I can remember the name of your man who I beat, but I don't want to be fucking naming him and shaming him.
Yeah. Oh, good man.
But yeah, first time runner, I got 191 first preference votes, so that was really good for me. Like 191 people went out there and gave me a number one next to my name, so that was something. And a
That's
short campaign as well, like, so yeah, I was happy. So I'll certainly get out there and do that. But enough about me, man. What do people have to expect from yourself over the next while? Is there going to be more comic books, or couch skits coming our way? Are we going to have some Christmas themed stuff coming out our way?
So the Christmas theme, I've done a Christmas episode, but that was last year. That's Cannaman Saves God. You can find it on the website
Yeah.
for anybody that's interested. But essentially, I'm just going to the episode. So actually, that's perfect. So the episode that's going to be ready for Christmas this year is actually touches on about the Illuminati and talks about how the fact that
Yes.
and it's called For Fishing's Sake. And what it is that Cannaman and Donnie they end up getting fucking captured by an occult group, but it's all wearing hoods. They actually all look kind of like the Alchemist, but they're obviously malevolent intent kind of thing. These guys, and they're all like chanting around like a fish. The fish is supposed to be the indicator of Pisces. Is it Pisces? That was the last fucking Aquarius, like the last generation, the age or something like that. I think it was the age of Pisces. And that's why Jesus' fucking story is included in that age.
Right.
And it's all about the fish and all that kind of shit. And then the next age is fucking Aquarius or some shit. I don't know. But anyway, so I was like, fuck it, loosely based on something that I don't know anything about. I was like, I'll fucking do this thing. And yeah, so that'll be ready for Christmas this year.
Excellent.
But yeah, and then the graphic novel, hopefully, as long as I get everything done, it's ready in January, and then after that, it's just going to be essentially the Donnie movie.
Head down Donnie
like,
movie.
yeah, exactly, man. Just head down, and I won't be throwing a couch skit. The next couch skit, there's 2 couch skits lined up. One of them's called Red Dead, and it's all about Red Dead. It's like a tip in my hat to Red Dead Redemption because it's my son's favorite game. And the other game is the other couch skits based on Assassin's Creed, but I'm going to call it Assassin's Creed. And just about the Middle East folk, and I'm going to get Donnie like jumping through the fucking whatever that thing's called. It's fucking late, man. I'm fucking ripped. And he's like holding bits of hash and shit. So that should be, but that'll probably be. I don't know when that'll be. January as well, I think.
But you know, that's actually a thing. Like the Hashashans, like these assassins, like used to be big hash smokers or something. Can't really say. That's a hard word to say. Hash.
I know it is, man. It is.
Try to say that one 3 times fast while you're blessed.
But that's what made me think that. I was like, because it's like, and it's interesting because it was when I got that bit hash a few weeks back, and I was like, you know, and that's what popped to mind. I was like, I should do a couch skit with that. You know, that'd be cool, and because it's a real thing, Middle Eastern fucking little sect of assassins that used to consume cannabis before engaging in their assassinations. So I know, so that'll be cool. I was just again, these take fucking ages, so I'm trying to prioritize in that sense, but. Yeah, I wish there was. That's why the whole point. If I was self-sustainable, I'd just not go to work, man. But it's work that takes over. You know, but you go to live.
Yeah, well, that's. I'm glad you said that because my very next question there for you was going to be, what ways can people go and support you? Where can people go and find the different merchandise? I know you have your website there. Do you want to give that a shout out?
Yeah, so the website's www.canamantv.co.uk. You can find the movie on there. You can get that for a tenner. All the season 1 and season 2 is up there as well. Again, if you can essentially, if you just go into the pricing and plans, it's a tenner a month, and then you get access to all this stuff. I've got 9 behind the scenes audio diaries that are in the process. They're uploading right now. There's one of them fucking doing it now. So they'll be up in the next day or two with those 9. And there's also going to be a 20-minute behind the scenes video footage of the movie that I did. That will also be getting uploaded. And that'll be uploaded probably next week. And then probably, I think maybe 10 days after that, it'll be episode 5 of season 2 for Fishing's Sake, it's called. So that'll be ready in probably about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that.
Class. What about the Cannaman comics? Are they available for purchase up there then as well on the website?
Yeah. So if you go on the website, it's got Cannaman books, and you've got the comics there. There's also the Cannaman original collection. That's all of the volumes. That's all the comics. Like all the like the feature length comics that are being adapted into animation. And then if you get the first 33 and the second 33, these are the single Skinner comics. So essentially, if you want to get like all the Cannaman comics in one go, get the Cannaman original collection 101 to 114, and then single Skinner 33, and then the second single Skinner 33 or whatever. And that's them all. That's like literally all of them. Whereas I've got on the website individual like volume 1 to volume 3. So there's like 11 or 12 books altogether, but take away 3 or 4 of them because they're all condensed into that fucking Cannaman original collection kind of thing.
Gosh, yeah, and these are going to be collector's items in time to come. So make sure, guys, if you're out there listening to this, that you get on there and get them before this guy takes off and goes into complete stardom and he forgets where he came from and he'll be like, Martin, who?
I'll be honest, man, that's not even going to happen, man. No fucking way. No way. That's not happening.
No, man, you're gonna get yeah, you'd be very surprised by what happens. The universe works in funny ways.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, my main thing, the benchmark I set was if I can buy a house in cash that I could then leave to my boy. That's the benchmark, and I think that's why it's like when I did the premiere the other day, it was exciting and it was a really good experience, but there was a weird sensation of nothing being achieved, and I think it's because the baseline of that I set when I begun this journey essentially was like I need to get that done. I need to get the house bought for my boy. So and that's no happened even in the slightest. So I think it's just kind of like until that day arrives, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny you said. I was only just conversing with my old man the other day about that, because he bought his house when he was about my age, maybe a bit younger actually. I think he was late 20s when he bought his house. But like I was saying to him, I've kind of just accepted now that I'm probably never going to be in a position to be able to
Mhm.
buy a house in this current economy because like my dad bought a house when at a time when his wages were what, like say he bought a house for 75 grand, I think it was when he bought the house. His wages at the time might have been about like 400 or 500 kind of pound at the time when we were in the
Mhm.
pound system. um that house is worth like fucking, jeez, what's the house worth? It's about nearly 400 grand today.
Mhm.
And his wages are 600 euro or something like that, like, the equivalent, like, like it's slight increase there in the wages, but the price of the house has gone up 4 or 5 times,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So you put that into perspective for myself, like it's just I've accepted it now anyway, like, so it's, yeah.
No, I'm the same. It's interesting you should say that, actually, man, because there has been a weird internal fucking discovery that's happened on the process of this, and that's one of the things I've realised is like the contentment I have. I would much rather, I think, we had the contentment of pursuing something than having like
Mm,
financial stability. And there's a weird bittersweet thing I think happens
yeah,
if that comes at the sacrifice of your fucking enjoyment of your thing. Is it really worth it?
yeah,
And I ponder on that question all the time. At moments when I'm like rookie as fuck, and you're like, "Fuck's sake, man!" And you're pondering on that. That's when it really happens. Um, but that's what, and it's that back and forward. And I think it's like, I think that's the only time you retain your soul if you retain your craft. You know.
yeah, yeah. I suppose for me, what I want to leave behind for my kids is a better world. Hopefully, I'll have done a little bit there to have influenced policy change in some way and improved society in some little way anyway. And fuck it, if I can get a house, that'll be a bonus.
I know,
We
quite right,
won't
man.
give up on it yet. But definitely for people out there, guys, get over there, support the creators within our own community, Cannaman being one of them. So that's cannamantv.co.uk for people if they want to get over there and support it. Is there a PayPal as well if people wanted to just send us donations your way as well to support the work that you're doing? Do you have a
Yeah, I
PayPal set
think
up
it's just
there?
Cannaman TV 77. I think.
Cannaman
I
TV
think I'm
77.
pretty certain that's what it is.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's good to get that out there. But I'm just realising the time there now. I'm going to have to go and collect one of my daughters from work. My oldest daughter there is just going to be finished work in 5 minutes. So Daddy Taxi is on the way. But Conor, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you, man. Thanks again for taking the time out and for being the icebreaker that I've needed to get back into the interview. And hopefully, this is the first of many to come from the Martin's world. And I'll certainly be having you back on as well in the not too distant future because I enjoy our conversations.
Thanks, Martin. Really appreciate it, man. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, thanks very much, man. Again, enjoy the rest of your evening, so dude. And there you go, guys. I hope you all enjoyed that interview with Conor Macleod. I know I enjoyed the conversation anyway. Conor's a very down to earth guy, really easy to talk to. And that podcast could have went on for a lot longer. So I suppose we were rather lucky that I was caught for time there towards the end. But I'll certainly have Conor on again in the future. As I realised after the fact that we didn't talk a whole lot about the premiere of the movie. Conor's movie actually premiered at a cinema in Edinburgh. So we should have really delved into to how that evening went and who was in attendance, and what were the highlights of the night. There was a couple of questions I had for Conor there, but as we were just kind of conversing, I completely forgot to actually dive into questions there on the premiere. But no doubt we'll get to do that again in the future. But guys, that was Conor Macleod anyway from Cannaman TV. So don't forget to check out cannaman.co.uk, cannamantv.co.uk to find the Cannaman movie and all the Cannaman animation series. Also subscribe over on YouTube to the Cannaman TV YouTube channel. I think it's Cannaman TV 3008 is the user tag there for him over on YouTube. And that's it. So, guys, until next time, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring to you this interview with Conor Macleod. And I'll be back with more interviews in the not too distant future. So stay blazed out there, guys, and keep her lit. Much love. Bye-bye.